What if the most trusted people around Iran's supreme leader are not loyalists, but agents of a foreign intelligence service? What if the axis of power in Tehran has been penetrated by invisible hands? Today, we investigate one of the most explosive claims in the shadow war between Israel and Iran, that 1,000 Mossad spies may operate behind Khamenei's ears inside the machinery of the regime itself. We do not claim we can prove exactly 1,000, but we trace the evidence, arrests, leaks, and strategic gambits that suggest deep and ongoing infiltration and the regime's ferocious attempts to root it out. This is a journey into paranoia, betrayal, and clandestine warfare. The phrase 1,000 Mossad spies is dramatic, likely rhetorical, but it captures a recurring narrative in Iranian state media and hardline discourse that Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad, has deeply embedded agents inside Iran's power centers, perhaps even in Khamenei's inner circle. In recent months, Tehran has claimed to have arrested hundreds, even over 700, of Israeli collaborators after the June 2025 conflict with Israel. On its face, these numbers may be inflated, but they represent a core belief inside the regime that infiltration is real, pervasive, and existential. To understand how a modern spy network might embed itself in Iran, we begin with precedent. The best documented case, the 2018 Israeli infiltration of Iran's nuclear archive warehouse in Tehran. In January 2018, fewer than 24 Mossad agents penetrated a secret depot in Karizak near southern Tehran and exfiltrated over 100,000 documents relating to Iran's secret AMAD nuclear weapons program. That audacious operation sent shockwaves, exposing decades of design files, warhead plans, and internal reports. It also demonstrated that even inside Tehran, in high-security zones, Mossad could operate. That set a precedent that others point to when speculating about deeper infiltration. The conflict that erupted in June 2025, often framed as Operation Rising Lion, brought this shadow war into the open. For the first time, Israeli officials publicly alluded to deep penetration and sabotage operations inside Iran. Israeli and Western sources reported that Mossad agents smuggled into Iran explosive drones, weapons components, and even built a covert drone base, all undercover, in the lead-up to the airstrikes. The drones were used to disable missile launchers and air defenses near Tehran, clearing a path for Israeli warplanes. One Israeli security official told Defense One that Mossad teams carried out sabotage inside Iran as the airstrikes began. Others say that entire segments of the regime's air defenses were compromised by pre-positioned devices. In other words, the kinetic war was preceded by a clandestine war, and the success of the air campaign suggests the groundwork was laid from within. In response, the Iranian regime mounted one of its largest counterintelligence sweeps in recent memory. Between June 14th and 18th alone, Iran reported at least 44 arrests tied to alleged espionage, bomb or drone factories and clandestine cells. In Alborz province, 2 alleged Mossad operatives were arrested, reportedly with explosives and electronic devices. In Ray County, near Tehran, others were arrested on similar charges. State media later claimed more than 700 arrests across the country on suspicion of collaboration with Israel. In a few high-visibility cases, Iran executed individuals convicted of espionage for Mossad, including alleged involvement in sabotage, assassination, or passing classified data. One Iranian state media statement announced the execution of Esmail Fakhri, accused of espionage for Mossad, though said not to be tied to the wave of 2025 arrests. Other media claims purport to arrest 28 suspects, with charges ranging from photographing military installations to colluding in sabotage. Yet it's important to note, many of these public announcements are opaque in evidence, and independent verification is rare. Confessions in Iran are often televised, and critics argue many convictions rest on coerced pleas. Still, the pattern of arrests, executions, and regime rhetoric lends credence to the idea that the state is attempting to purge a hidden network, or at least to project the fear of one. How would such infiltration work, especially in a ruthless regime with tight security and counterintelligence? Analysts point to several methods: recruitment and turn/humint. Agents might be recruited from within, either ideological converts, coerced individuals, or those bribed or blackmailed. They could be embedded in security, IRGC, or intelligence bodies. cover identities and front companies. Operatives may masquerade through businesses, NGOs, or technical firms handling logistics or procurement for the regime while hiding dual loyalties. Cyber and communications evasion, secure messaging, dead drops, encryption, disposable devices, anonymized routing help agents stay hidden. Integration with internal structures. Some agents might defect or turn inside Iran's intelligence organs, creating inside moles. Psychological warfare/media proxies. Some infiltration is soft, using media accounts, leaks, or propaganda tools. For example, a mysterious Mossad Farsi persona to sow distrust inside the regime or among its citizens. Staged operations/false flags. Agents might plant misinformation, leak partial secrets, or provoke purges to manipulate internal narratives. Large operations, like the 2025 invasion, demand composed integration of all of the above: humans, technology, pre-positioned hardware, and real-time coordination. Even as we place weight on these claims, a rigorous investigation must account for doubts and counterpoints, exaggerated numbers, the propaganda inflation. The regime has every incentive to inflate spy counts to portray internal enemies and justify crackdowns. Forced confessions and show trials. Many convicted agents in Iran confess publicly under duress. Independent observers question the fairness and authenticity of evidence. Scapegoating dissenters. Some arrested may be political opponents, journalists, or activists labeled spies to silence them. Lack of transparent evidence. Most announcements rely on state media or judiciary statements with little outside scrutiny or forensic publication of documents. Operational limits of infiltration. Deep infiltration is extremely risky. Agents once exposed could be neutralized. Tight vetting and counterintelligence inside Iran make mass infiltration extremely difficult. Mistaken or false accusations. Some alleged spies might be innocent or wrongly accused in the fog of internal power struggles. Thus, while many claims are plausible, we must maintain skepticism and balance in presenting them. If even a handful of operatives had penetrated deeply, the consequences would be profound. The regime's own narrative suggests that trust is broken in its highest echelons. Purges of advisors, ministers, intelligence chiefs, and generals are now routine. Some evidence supports this. In 2021, former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad claimed that the head of Iran's counter-Mossad unit was himself a Mossad agent and that over 20 of its members were agents. This kind of claim, if true, implies infiltration even of the internal counterintelligence system. Iran has also issued strict guidelines and warnings. Citizens are urged to monitor suspicious vehicles, report unusual behavior, and expect raids, signals of regime hypervigilance. In some provinces, local authorities have restricted movement or surveillance in response to alleged spy threats. Psychologically, the regime must act paranoid. A leadership that suspects betrayal everywhere may overreact, triggering internal fracture, betrayal, and inefficiency. This is precisely the kind of pressure espionage is meant to inflict. In a sense, whether there are 1,000 spies or not, the regime must behave as if infiltration is existential, and that behavior has real consequences. Why does all this matter, beyond intrigue? Because espionage underwrites kinetic war. Israel's military actions, especially the 2025 strikes, hinged on intelligence, knowing where to strike, neutralizing defenses, picking individual high-value targets. Without infiltration, many of these strikes would be blind. If Mossad or allied intelligence agencies maintain operational capabilities inside Iran, it gives Israel a constant edge, the ability to preempt, sabotage, and strike with precision. Some Israeli statements now suggest that even after recent conflicts, Mossad still has undisclosed operational capabilities in Tehran. On the Iranian side, the drive to purge spies offers justification for domestic repression, crackdown on dissent, and consolidation of surveillance. It also feeds a narrative of external betrayal to mobilize loyalty. Looking ahead, several trends may shape the next phase. Iran will intensify counterintelligence, internal security, and vetting at all levels. Israel may expand its hybrid war model, combining espionage, sabotage, cyber attacks, and air raids. The battlefield may tilt toward intelligence supremacy. Whoever sees more from the inside wins. Continued wild claims will blur the line between real infiltration and propaganda, making truth harder to discern. Are there really 1,000 Mossad spies whispering secrets into the ears of Iran's leadership? The evidence falls short of that precise figure, but across multiple dimensions, intelligence operations, sabotage, arrests, leaks, the pattern is one of deep penetration, internal paranoia, and a regime fighting to repel hidden invaders. If even a fraction of the agents claimed by Tehran truly existed, it would mark one of the most audacious espionage campaigns in modern history. The prize would be nothing less than control of Iran's secrets, its decision loops, its lines of force. For Khamenei, this is not just a security problem, it is a crisis of legitimacy. For viewers, it's a reminder that in modern warfare, the battlefield is not only in the sky or on the ground, it is inside systems, minds, and shadows. The real question we leave you with: if one day a network inside Iran falls, will the public know which parts were real, which were fictions, and which were born in the shadows of espionage?